Welcome to Roaming with Restless Women, real talk with wise, dynamic women leaders. I'm your host, Julie Noonan, CEO and founder of Intuitive Wisdom Coaching, and I'm living my dream life. I live and work in my RV, coaching senior women leaders as they navigate corporate politics, family drama, and personal goals to live their own dream lives. These women are restless. They are never done seeking new opportunities, learning, and creating value in the world. If you'd like to apply to be on the show, stick around to the end and I'll let you know how. Let's go. Welcome back to Roaming with Restless Women. Today I'm privileged to have Liz Steblay
Steblay.
who is the founder and the chief advocate of the Professional Independent Consultants of America, PICA, and the author of the best-selling book, Succeeding as a Solopreneur, 6 Keys to Taking the Leap, Winning Clients, and Building Wealth. She's also the CEO of the Proco Agency, a national talent agency for independent consultants. Liz truly enjoys helping people launch and grow the solo career of their dreams. She brings a wealth of information to listeners about self-employment. She shares tips on what to do, what to avoid, and how to conquer FUD. I love this. Fear, uncertainty, and doubt. FUD. All part of her 6 keys. So welcome, Liz. We really appreciate your being on the show today.
I'm very happy to be here, Julie.
Great. So I always like to start out by asking you to describe your career journey and what event or trigger kind of led you to opening your own company and becoming a solopreneur.
Yes, my career journey was not the traditional climb the corporate ladder. I
Okay.
was sort of on that path, but then decided uh, that I would rather go into consulting.
Mm-hmm.
So I was with a global consulting firm for about 5 years. But once my daughter was born, that big firm model wasn't going to work. I felt like I couldn't be a good consultant and a good mom at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I took an internal job with a Fortune 500 company. And about a year and a half, year and 3/4 later, I got laid off, which was fine because I wasn't happy there anyway. I was going to quit. And this way I got severance, so that was lucky. But I called a former client that I had worked with when I was back at the global firm, and I said, "Hey, I just got laid off. Do you need any help?" And he said, "Are you kidding? How soon can you get here?" So it was
Oh,
that layoff back in 2004 that I literally fell into independent consulting well before the word solopreneurship was ever invented. In that first year, I made more money, worked fewer hours, uh, didn't have to deal with the big firm BS, lowered my effective tax rate, and had more quality time with my kid. And I said, this is it. I am not going back to a traditional real job. So that was 20 years ago, and had a lot of twists and launched 2 businesses and wrote a book and did all kinds of things, but none of that was really planned.
okay. So when you were a consultant, what area did you specialize in? Or you
I
just were you
especially
a generalist?
No, and that's actually one of the 6 keys is not to be a generalist.
Right.
So, yes, I focused on organizational change strategy and implementations for big, hairy tech projects. And I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
100%. That's my specialty too. I love it.
Yeah, so and I didn't, I've at first sort of resisted being in that line of work because I didn't think it was very sexy or intellectually demanding. And then I realized a couple of years into it that I was very good at it. And I said, well,
Yes.
I'll just do this.
Yes. So what was your educational background in? I'm just curious because it sounds like you lived my life.
No, I'm sure not. But so my educational background, well, even before that, I was the only daughter. I have 4 brothers, and the only daughter of an entrepreneur. And so I always
Okay.
knew I wanted to be in business. After watching him grow his business to become a national organization. So undergrad, I went and studied business, and then about 7 years later, I went back to get my MBA.
Mm-hmm.
And my emphasis in my MBA was management and organization, not because I knew how to make a living doing that, but because I liked it and it was easy for me and it was fun. right? So
Hmm.
management and organization was my specialty, and most people don't specialize in that. But turns out that if you want to have a career dealing with people, that's a good one to major in.
Well, I find it very interesting that probably the hardest part of being an entrepreneur and or a leader in any organization is managing the people.
It
So
is
why
the hardest
don't
part.
we educate people better around that at the beginning? So,
Exactly.
um, uh, in your book, Succeeding as a Solopreneur, you talk about FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. First of all, what is your definition of a solopreneur? And then, second of all, tell me a little bit more about what those common fears and uncertainties and doubts are when you're talking with
Yes. Yes. So, uh, as the word implies, right, a
them.
solopreneur is a person who's striking out to or runs their own business, but specifically solo meaning without employees.
Yes.
Typically, a solopreneur is somebody who has some knowledge, some service or knowledge, wisdom sharing, coaching, management consulting type of business, maybe a financial planner, could even be like interior design.
Hmm.
But typically, solopreneurs do not have products. We're not making widgets. We're selling some sort of a service.
Yes.
And we're not interested in having employees. We just love doing the work that we do and earn some money and call it a day. Um, like I said, don't have to deal with the big firm BS or the headaches of having employees and payroll taxes and all of that stuff. More and more people, as you and I know, are striking out onto their own to be solopreneurs.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of ties into FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. More and more people want to do it, but the FUD is holding them back. Now, I
Mm.
always think of FUD as I always think of it as this little monster. I call it the FUD monster. And he sits on my shoulder and he whispers in my ear things like, you'd be crazy to give up a full-time salary and strike out on your own. Who are you to think that you can start your own business? You don't know anything about selling or business development or negotiating contracts or pricing your services.
Hmm.
And what if you fail? What if you can't make it? What would happen? So these are the uh, most common FUDs,
Uh-huh.
and and that's the very first key in the book of the 6 keys to success is to learn to manage and mitigate FUD. And there's one simple trick that I'll share now, and that's, name it and tame it. If you can
Okay.
slow down your brain long enough to hear what the FUD monster is saying, and then decide, is this fear, uncertainty, or doubt? And once, let's say it's a doubt, well, I don't know how to do business development.
Yeah.
Well, then you've named it. And so then the next question is, well, how can I learn more about this to increase my confidence and not be so scared of it? And then you know what the next step is to do. So
Right.
that's one easy trick. Obviously, there's more ways to mitigate FUD, but I've been self-employed now 20 years, and I'll tell you, it never really goes away. I still get
Oh,
FUD from
good.
time to time. So if any solopreneur or entrepreneur even tells you that, oh no, I'd never have FUD, they're lying.
Totally. Totally. And the interesting thing is when you were talking, I could see layers, excuse me, layers of FUD.
Yes.
Because once, maybe you identify that monster as doubt, you go, you learn how to do something, and then it comes back as uncertainty.
Yeah.
So, yes, I learned
Yes.
how to do it, but I haven't practiced it yet. I
And
haven't had the
that's
success.
imposter syndrome then pops up like,
Yes.
okay, but then there's that mantra, fake it until you make it. And eventually that actually does work in most situations.
Well, how do you counsel people who have that what if I fail FUD?
Yeah, that's more about doing some reflection on what could you regret if you don't do it? What if you go forward 5 years, 10 years, or even at retirement and you look back on your career and you'll think, I wish I always would have tried X, then you should try it. Plus,
Mhm.
fear of failure, it's not like you're going to die, right?
Right.
If you try it for a year, 18 months, 2 years, and you're like, you know what? It's really just not working out. Who cares? You had
Mm-hmm.
the courage to try it and you learned so much in the process. And I always tell people that being self-employed is the hardest job you'll ever have
Oh,
because you
yes.
have to do things you're not comfortable doing. You have to learn new things, push your boundaries, try new things. Oh, well, if this thing didn't work, so now I need to tweak it and do it this way. And you really are going to grow so much, even if your definition of success might be monetary, right? Well, I didn't make the $500,000 I was hoping to make, or whatever it is, even $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
You had the courage to try and you learned so much, and you can take that learning and put it into something else. I think that's part of why my career looks like such a squiggly line and not a career ladder, is because I was doing something and I realized, oh, I'm really good at this, and oh, there's a need for that, and oh, maybe I should start this business, and oh, there's a need over here to help people launch their own independent consulting businesses. So why don't I just create this educational organization? So it hasn't been well planned, but it's been so fun and I've learned so much. Of course, I've made a ton of mistakes. Many of them are
That's
in the book.
that's what life is all about. If you're not making mistakes, you're not learning.
Exactly.
You're not growing. And that's one of the things that for boomers in particular, I get frustrated. Well, I'm on the cusp of boomer Xer, so I have a foot in both generations, if you will. Um, but what I'm experiencing and talking with my peers on both sides is I'm not done yet.
Yeah,
I'm not done yet. I want to go do something else. I don't want to retire in the old way that people used to retire.
exactly.
And when they say that to themselves, they immediately get that FUD. I want to do something else, but I am afraid to do it. But if I don't do it, I'm going to regret it. So it's this back and forth that it sounds like your book can help out with a lot.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, the first, um, I think it's like chapter 3, things to take about before taking, things to think about before taking the leap. Because like I said, it's hard. It's not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to what you just said about people want to do something else, there's a lot of people who join PICA, the Professional Independent Consultants of America,
Yes.
because they don't want to retire, that they want to continue to add value. Many of them don't even need the money. They just want to continue to give back or contribute or stay
Yes.
engaged or uh, have more meaning to their days, or they don't play golf. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of people that step into solopreneurship, maybe maybe that's a side hustle or certainly on a part-time basis.
Mm-hmm.
But to be successful at it, first you have to define what your meaning of success is. Uh,
Correct.
but because that's different for everybody. And in fact, I always tell people to start with knowing your why. And I have a template called the North Star document because you need to be very clear of why you're undertaking
Mm-hmm.
this new path or this new journey where you're going to have to learn and experiment with doing new things.
Well, and one thing that my one of my former bosses said to me one time was make sure you're running to something, not away from something.
Yes, that's it.
And I have found that when I have counseled people or coached people who open their own business just to leave somewhere that was toxic,
Mhm.
9 times out of 10, they're not passionate enough about it to keep it going, long term. And it usually winds up to be kind of an interim step. And then they go back into another organization. And when you're the kind of solopreneur that you and I are, I was running too. I am running to how I want the rest of my life to be,
Yes.
and I have set goals for myself. So that's a really important distinction there, I think. Um, so the hardest part for me of being a solopreneur is finding and signing up clients.
This episode is sponsored by me. So, as a special gift to you, our listeners, I offer a free one-on-one 15-minute breakthrough session. Bring a problem and experience how coaching works to see if it could be of value to you. sign up for an available time on my website, intuitivewisdomcoach.com.
And projects, obviously. What do you offer in your book as far as tips around business development?
Yeah, that's actually key number 3, which is constantly grow and nourish your network. So I lead a workshop called Business Development for Solopreneurs, or at least I used to. I don't have any scheduled at the moment. And when I ask people, how did you find your most recent 2 projects? 9 times out of 10, they say it was a referral.
Yep.
It was a referral or repeat business, which is great. But you can't just, say a prayer every morning that I'm going to get a referral today. It doesn't quite work. The magic doesn't quite work that way.
No.
So one of the most important things and most important concepts to remember is that business development equals relationship development.
Yes.
Nobody's going to hire a solopreneur whose expertise they want or need without at least having a conversation first. They want to know that you're the right fit, that you have the expertise and credibility to help them, and they need to trust you, right? So trust comes from building a relationship. And sometimes it can take a long time to build enough trust to actually convert that into a client. I think there's a story in the book, or maybe it was a blog, it's probably in both places, where I once nurtured a client for 5 years. 5 tiny little touch points. Most of this was through LinkedIn messaging. And he finally was promoted. Every time he got promoted, I'd say, hey, congratulations. Looks like you're in for an exciting time. It's a really good company, or whatever the case was. I would always send a little note. Well, eventually he got promoted to be the head of HR for Cedars-Sinai Medical Systems in Los Angeles.
Nice.
And once again, I sent another note. Congratulations, Andy. You finally reached the top spot. Your career's come full circle. You're back in healthcare, blah, blah, blah. One of these days we really need to get together and have a cup of coffee. Well, about 3 months later, he sent me a note back and he said, Liz, I've gotten the lay of the land and we're going to undertake an HR transformation here. I need a consultant that can help lead this effort. Do you have somebody in your network or your company that can help me with this? It ended up being a $400,000 contract.
Nice.
Now, it looks like it came together like it fell out of the sky, but it didn't. It took 5 years to build that trusting relationship with Andy that he knew I wasn't going to sell him something he didn't need or
Right.
send him a person that wasn't the right fit. And so that takes time. And I think a lot of solopreneurs have unrealistic expectations of how long it takes to grow and nourish your network and to gain momentum. It takes time to build momentum. But even then, once you're on a project, particularly the type of projects I used to be on, which are big, hairy, often 40, 50, 60 hours a week in the thick of things, the last thing on your mind is business development or nourishing your network.
Oh yeah. It's over and above.
But you can't ignore it because
You
then you'll be
cannot.
caught flat-footed like I was. When that first project ended, I was flat-footed. It's like the starting gun had gone off and I was still standing there with both feet in cement. So don't do that. My mantra after that was one person in person once a week. No matter how busy I was, one person in person once a week. Maybe it was somebody from the client, maybe it was somebody from the system integrator, maybe it was then in COVID years, maybe it was having a virtual coffee or virtual cocktail with somebody I'd worked with before, just to keep that network warm.
Right.
That's one of the most important things.
For people who have, massive networks, how do you help them narrow it down so that feels doable?
Yes, there's a way to do this where it's you have to prioritize. First, you have to go stepping back to key number 2, which is know your niche and be memorable and be known for something. What is the tip of your spear? What are you known for? What words do people associate with you and your expertise? Because when those words pop up, they need to say, oh, you need to have a conversation with Julie. So that's most important. But then you identify, okay, who's most likely to buy? Who are my target buyers? And who are the people likely to refer me to my target buyers? Now that might be maybe your target buyer is the head of HR, but people who might refer you to the head of HR might be someone from a program management office or somebody in talent acquisition, or maybe even another consultant that does what you do, but always has a full plate and
Yeah.
has referrals, right? So you can actually go in and export your contacts from LinkedIn. And I encourage you to
Yes.
do this, everybody to do this anyway,
Mm.
because you never know when something's going to disappear. And so anyways, you should have it as backup, but download your contacts, export it into Excel, and sort that list into columns A, B, and C. A are people who can hire me. Maybe they've even hired me in the past. B, people I've worked with in the past or who are likely to refer me to somebody who may need my services. And C is everybody else. And then work your way through the list, but not using bulk emails. You have to make it
No.
personal.
Right. Right.
It
Yeah,
goes back to
that's
trust, building trust.
right. Exactly. And I think the only reason why anyone would use a bulk email is if you put out a newsletter or, or publish tools for a specific group of people that you know that they would like to have these tools, or if you've created a training program and you know, um,
Yes.
they would benefit from that. Absolutely. I don't think mass email works very well.
Not when it comes
Not
to
for the
building
no,
relationships. No.
no, no. And that's what the business that we're in is, as service providers.
Julie, a lot of people are hesitant to reach out to somebody that they worked with maybe pre-COVID 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been 5 years. I haven't been in touch. It's too awkward. Well, I have two things to say to that. One is embrace the awkward.
Yeah.
Every human has being what knows what it feels like to feel awkward. And you could even start out the initial email, voicemail, even better. Hey, this is a little awkward for me because I just realized we haven't spoken since before COVID. I can't believe it's been 5 years. But the reason I'm reaching out now is because I truly value your opinion and I'd like to pick your brain about something. I'm thinking about stepping out on my own and starting a business in executive coaching, interior design, financial plan, whatever it is. And you'd be surprised how many people will reply and say, my gosh, I can't believe it's been 5 years either.
Right.
Right? So yeah, you got to get out of your head and not worry about. And what's the worst thing that can happen? That FUD monster is going to say, well, that's too awkward. What if they don't reply? Who
They
cares
don't
if they don't
reply.
reply?
Then they don't reply. Somebody else will, that's for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I was first kind of discovering my real niche, especially for executive coaching, I reached back out to people that I had gone to college with
Yes.
40 years ago.
Yeah.
And they were more than happy. I mean, those are fun days. Well, for most of us, those are a lot of fun days. And they know you as who you were back then. And it is so fun to reconnect and say, hey, what are you doing now? And, tell me about your family. And that's kind of a low hanging fruit, in my
Yes.
opinion,
Yeah.
because you already have a relationship. It just needs to change.
Yeah. There's another golden rule, and there's a consulting guru that I follow. His name is David A. Fields.
Oh,
He
yes, I
calls,
do too.
yes, he calls this right side up thinking. It's about serving them and learning more about them. It's not about you.
No.
And here it's about identifying what's going on in their lives. What problems are they dealing with? What situations are causing them stress? Uh, well, here's one real tactical tip for making sure you're thinking with the right way, right side up, about the other person first. And this is hard to do. Every time you send an email or a thank you note or even a LinkedIn message, try not to start with the word I.
Absolutely not.
Start with something about you. Julie, love being on your contest. You're such an engaging host. The time
Yeah.
really time really flew by, right? So it's more about you being an engaging host than me, right?
Hmm.
So yeah, it's hard. I mean, I've been practicing that for years and I still struggle with it sometimes.
Absolutely. I do too. I do too. It is really hard because, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, okay, I need some business here, or, I want to do work for you guys. you're a great company, that kind of stuff. So what are some of the nuts and bolts things that you find that entrepreneurs do not do that does lead to failure or that can
Yes.
lead to failure?
Actually, that's key number 4, which is be professional and be a business. And that's literally set yourself up like a business.
Yes.
Uh, and that could be things, everything from, you may or may not even need an LLC. Everybody's like, oh, do I need an LLC? You might not. Most businesses in this country are sole proprietorships, so that's not that important. But naming your business and having a business license and uh, configuring your LinkedIn profile
Mm-hmm.
as a solopreneur business is I think critical, because that's the first place people look.
Mm-hmm.
You can have the best website in the world, but if you Google your name, your LinkedIn profile is one of the top 3 results.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I call that your storefront window. You
Mm-hmm.
have a few seconds to grab somebody's attention and make an impression. So if you have a default background, or you don't have a logo next to your business name, or you just have your title, or there's lots of different ways that a LinkedIn profile of a solopreneur works as a storefront window with your best merchandise out front to
Mm-hmm.
draw people into your store or to have a conversation with you. And I run a whole workshop on that. In fact, I also have I think it's Pika has a 14-page downloadable guide on
Okay.
how how to optimize your profile for solopreneurship. I'll send you the link so that you can put it in the show
I would
notes
love that.
to the
Yes,
download guide.
absolutely. Thank you. Yes. Because I know a lot of people would really go through that and just be loving the fact that they can update their LinkedIn and know that it's actually working for them instead of just
Yeah,
being sitting out there.
one of the biggest tricks, and again, one of the harder ones, is on that whole about section where you can describe, most people describe their work history. You need to flip that and phrase it from your client's point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people will put a sentence leader there that says, if any of these things keep you up at night, we should have a conversation. And then they list 4 bullet points.
Yeah,
That's from your client's point of view. That's not saying that you're an expert at resolving A, B, C, or D, right? So it takes some practice to think that way. What's going to draw people into a conversation with me? There's lots of examples in my book too that explain how to do that.
that sounds wonderful. What's the most important aspect about your career? What is the single thread that kind of your value or something that you hold dear that you can look back at your career from way back to now? What is it that holds your career together? What means the most to you?
So I recently turned 60,
I'm
and
61, so welcome to the club.
yes, it was the same. It was within a month of publishing the book. And the book has, the last 20 years of my life, stories and key learnings and everything. And so I was so exhausted publishing the book, hitting a new decade. And I thought, what's next? And I know a lot of the people that listen to this podcast are also in this boat of what's next. So
Exactly.
I did this terrific workshop actually with she was a Pika member, and I was kind of doing the workshop more to support her than anything else. But even after 60 years, I learned a very core thing about my personality that I didn't know before. And that's, I hate to disappoint people. I hated disappointing my parents. That's why I was an overachiever in school. I think that's
Uh-huh.
why I've been a workaholic overachiever my whole life. I hate to disappoint people. And that's the key thread that goes through everything that I do.
Wow. So that's amazing for building relationships
Yes,
because
that too.
trusted relationships, if you are one of the people that has your hate to disappointment gene, if you will, you're going to be reliable. You're going to do what you say
Yes,
you're going to do. Yeah.
that's very true. But that's also one of the there is a bonus chapter in the book, which is called the bonus key.
Mhm.
And uh, one of the core tenets of being an effective solopreneur is to keep your word.
Mm,
Do whatever it takes to get the job done.
mhm.
Because if you say you're going to have something done by end of day, you better have it done by end of day and not come up with some excuse of why you didn't have it, because
Right.
that erodes trust.
It sure does. Absolutely. So I have three questions that I ask at the end of at the end of every episode. Sorry. Before I get to those, do you have any other words of wisdom that we didn't touch upon that you'd like to share with our group?
Oh, Julie, that's a big question. I just wrote a whole book full of words of
I
wisdom.
know. Go get the book, guys. Go get the book.
I would, no, I can't think of just one. Let's go to your three questions.
Here we go with the three questions then. All right. The first one is I'd like for you to close your eyes and describe the picture that appears in your mind when I say wise woman. Open your eyes and tell me about her.
Wise woman is a person who is able to hear themselves think. So
Mm,
we get, we have our subconscious running all the time. Maybe it's even the FUD monster, and we get so busy. I was a single mom the whole time that I was an independent consultant and launching two of my businesses, and there's never enough time in a day, and you're busy, 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 and on the go, and there's social media, and you got to pick up the kids, and you're late for this. And but if you can even take 10 minutes every morning before you get out of bed and just breathe in, breathe out.
mhm.
Some people call it meditation. I call it just sitting because I always felt like I couldn't do meditation right, like there was a right way to do it.
Yeah.
But that really changed my life when I got into the habit of doing 10 minutes every morning, just breathing in, breathing out. And that slows down all of the swirling and the noise and has me grounded and focused. And
Mhm.
then after that, I think of what three things do I want to get done today? I have a bazillion sticky notes on my desk. I have a very long list of things to do. But if you can
Yes.
get just three things done, maybe it's, I need to finally make that doctor's appointment, or
Ah,
maybe it's I'm
yes.
finally going to publish this blog. It could be something little, something big. But once you get those three things done, you feel like you've made progress.
100% agree. So here's my next question. Where do you like to roam?
I roam everywhere. I'm traveling. One of the reasons I work so hard is to afford my travel budget. Just 2 days ago, I got back from Cuba. And
Nice.
yes, it was quite an eye-opening experience. I highly recommend it. But it's uh when I travel, I see things in a new way. I
Mhm.
see how other people are living their life in different cultures, and that's another way that I'm able to come back to my life and appreciate what I have, or to make adjustments.
Yes, absolutely. I think in the United States in particular, have most people have zero idea of how truly blessed we are.
Yes, 100% agree, especially coming back from Cuba. Those people are the world's, okay, well, maybe they're not the world's nicest people, but they are very gracious, warm people, but they really struggle.
Yeah.
That's the government and the way the whole country is run and set up. Yeah, I came back feeling like a bazillionaire.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. What makes you restless in a good way?
Restless in a good way is I'm never fully 100% happy with either of my businesses. I always think, well, what if we just did this? Or what if we did that? I'm constantly tinkering.
Yeah.
Uh, with my one business, the one that where I actually make money, the Proco agency, I've I'm promoting myself to chairman. So I'm not in the day-to-day operations anymore. I've turned that business over to my team. So that's not where I do my tinkering. Now I do my tinkering with Pika, the
Hmm.
Professional Independent Consultants of America. I'm tinkering with it now because I'm thinking I'm not sure I want to keep doing live workshops. Maybe I can do more on-demand asynchronous courses. For example, I have one called Getting Started as a Solopreneur, and
Hmm.
it takes you through the 5 key things and how to get started. And there's a checklist, and you can pause it and you can go do those things and then come back to it. And maybe I want to do more of that type of thing. And the other thing that I really love doing is one-on-one conversations. So
Hmm.
I'm tinkering it to do fewer workshops, fewer live workshops, and more one-on-one coaching.
Yeah, that will be tremendous and a great help to those of us out here trying to do this all by ourselves.
Yeah, and but the easiest way for sure is spend $19.99 and buy the book, or
Yeah.
even less for the audiobook or ebook. And I guarantee, 100% guarantee that you will learn at least 3 things after reading that book. I don't care how long you've been self-employed. And
Uh-huh.
if you don't, you can send me a note on LinkedIn and say, I didn't learn anything. I didn't learn 3 things from your book. And I will refund your money. 100% guarantee it.
Wow, that's amazing. So tell us, where can we get the book? Amazon, I'm assuming?
Yes, it's on Amazon, but succeeding as a solopreneur is hard to spell. Half the time I even mess it up. So to keep it simple, I've created a landing page called 6keys.info because it's 6 keys to taking the leap, winning clients, building wealth, and 6keys.info, not .com, because .com is way too expensive. And I'm all about keeping overhead low. So 6keys.info. And from there, you can find out more about Pika. You can go to different places to buy the book or the audiobook, or you can link to me on LinkedIn, whatever. But 6keys.info is easy to remember and easy to spell.
And as far as the Proco agency, where can people find that?
Probably, well, it's spelled PROKO, prococonsulting.com. And like I said, my team runs that, and we specialize in people. We represent people who have been independent at least a year, have at least 15 years of experience, and who specialize in organizational effectiveness. So that could be anything from performance management, change strategy, uh, leadership development, all things tangential to core HR.
Okay. So I call that strategic HR as opposed to
Ah,
payroll and benefits and,
yes, that's a
the
good term for it.
operational side. Yeah.
Excellent term.
Okay. All right, wonderful. So I've got all the information. We will have all of that information in the show notes. And thank you all very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I sure have enjoyed speaking with you, Liz, and you have some great ideas. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. It's what I love to do.
All right, we'll talk to you soon.
Julie Noonan here. Thank you so much for listening to Roaming with Restless Women. If you're a successful senior woman leader who would like to be on this program, please visit podcast.intuitivewisdomcoach.com. If you enjoyed this interview, please share this episode on social media and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Your thumbs ups and reviews go a long way.